Today's guest speaker has been an activist for most of his life. He was born in the Ukraine, raised in Duluth, Minnesota, and moved to Durham over 20 years ago. He has been described as being on the cutting edge of social issues here in Durham, so much so that he has even started his own newspaper called the Trumpet of Conscience. His roots in activism have ranged from civil rights to workers' rights to senior citizens' rights. In light of the celebration of Dr. King's birthday, it is fitting to note that he has even marched with Dr. King from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama. He describes Dr. King as a man who has tried to save the soul of America. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Sam Reed.
Thank you, Mrs. Baldwin. Really appreciate your remarks. Brothers and sisters, I'm fully aware that many of you present at this celebration of Martin Luther King's birthday are school teachers and people who make this beautiful institution worthwhile, and that teaches thousands and thousands of young people, young and old for that matter, about not only technique but also teaching them the meaning of life. It is appropriate, therefore, for me to say something, first of all, to the teachers. And I quote here from Ronald Missanari, who says, "Being a teacher refers less to one who gives answers and expects conformity, and more to one who is capable of providing context and stimulus to each learner so that each learner can discover for him or herself. Such teachers are skillful intermediaries and guides in the search for meaning and self-understanding. Rather than creating followers or imitators, their objective is to cultivate discoverers and seekers. One of the qualities that seem to characterize great teachers is their willingness and capacity to go beyond given and inherited or conditional boundaries. Part of their genius is to be able to see things differently and act accordingly. I didn't come here to make a speech. I came here mostly to share with you some of the epochal events of the freedom movement of the 1960s. And they were revolutionary in content. I want to share with Vincent Harding his feelings and his characterization of that freedom movement of the 60s. He says, although we often forget, the work of the artist reminds us that the transformation of human societies towards their best possibilities is not primarily a job for political technicians. Such creativity was one of the hallmarks of the black-led freedom movement. in our land, and the search for non-violent approaches to the systemic problems of America, democracy, was one of its best manifestations. Those of us who mine the post-World War II movement for its human treasures must certainly move beyond historical cliches and stereotypes. For one of the stirring results of the spinning globe and the welcome cessations of the Cold War is the growing recognition of our need for new visions of human unity, new understandings of the path towards reaching human conflicts, new peace brigades to help us solve the great problems and meet the great challenges common to humankind. So even though the commitment to nonviolent struggle was not uniformly accepted in the African American freedom movement, it is certainly one of the elements most urgently needed in our time. In the light of these needs and opportunities for the contemporary moment, it becomes apparent that our teaching is granted a great gift when we are able to explore and reflect on a freedom movement in which many leaders and thousands of other participants committed themselves to the ways of nonviolent life and struggle. Indeed, a movement overflowing with the lives and testimonials of women and men who had broken through their fears, who transcended their weaknesses, who sang, "We are not afraid," even as their knees were quivering, who were willing to live and die for more than a private agenda. Such a movement and such persons are perhaps the greatest gift to all those of us who teach about the life of the human community. For here was a greatness of heart and spirit that had nothing to do with celebrity, status, and bank accounts. Here are countless models for authentic life and work, which may help us to reclaim and restate the old saying into words like, quote, "The lives of great women and men teach us that all of us may tap the magnificent powers of divine creativity which now lie dormant within us, and use those powers for the development of our own lives and the most humane life of our society." Indeed, these are models of women and men who were not satisfied with the transformation of their own lives, the breaking of their own fears, but saw their own renewal as a call to participate in the rebuilding of other people and their nation. And in the process, they found even more powerful sources of personal renewal than they dreamed. If nothing else comes forth from the exploration and sharing of the epic story of our own struggle for democracy in the United States of America, such an insight would be rewarded now. And if the insight helps us to guide desperately searching or desperately trapped individuals to discover and claim their own possibilities, our teaching will have helped beyond the sharing of information to the sharing of life itself. I think that basically expresses my feelings about the role that the freedom movement has for our country and, for that matter, for the world. I feel very, very proud and happy that I knew Dr. Martin Luther King personally, that I shared with him in the march from Selma to Montgomery. I also feel very, very proud to be part of that multitude of thousands and thousands of women and men, and children too, who braved the assaults, the injuries, and the terrible name-calling that came from white racists. For those who did not really understand that Martin Luther King, and for that matter, Malcolm X too, and many, many thousands and thousands of others who shared with King and Malcolm X the love for freedom, the love for democracy, and were determined to give everything in their power, and for that matter, their life even, in order to achieve greater democracy for our nation. The celebration of Martin King's birthday should not be looked upon merely an occasion to explain Martin Luther King, although there's no question of the role, the tremendous power and example of Martin Luther King himself. But this celebration is an occasion for us to ponder of the tremendous possibilities of the people of our country. The example of the freedom movement was an example of what the American people can and will do. And it should be an example to us of what you and I can do for our community, to do for our nation. Because, as you notice from the children even today, there is creativity, there is imagination, there is hope, and there is talent in the American people. All we have to do is give it a chance to come forward, give it a chance to rise to the surface, not to treat people as numbers, but as human beings with hearts, with hopes, with dreams. That's the meaning of the freedom movement. And it's especially important because the fight for freedom is not limited to the 60s. The fight for freedom is today. To carry forward the dream, to accomplish the task that was initiated by many predecessors, to make life today truly a happy life for the people, to make our country truly democratic, to be an example to our nation and to the world. That's what today's celebration is all about. And I hope you feel and agree with my sentiments on this. I want to conclude my remarks with one observation. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were not the only ones that had a dream. The dream is universal. The dream is the expression and the hope of millions and millions of people in the past and the present. And artists, teachers, people, creative people have given expression to that dream, have given expression to the task facing us. And one of those artists that I want to refer to is a famous, really truly powerful artist by the name of Langston Hughes. I hope that many of you are aware and acquainted with the writings of Langston Hughes during the 30s and 40s. I want to read to you one poem of Langston Hughes, who best expresses the hope, the dream that must go on. Langston Hughes writes, "Hold fast to the dream, for if the dream dies, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that has been yet, and yet must be free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who makes America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not faint. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me. And yet, I swear the oath, America will be. An ever-living seed, its dream lies deep in the heart of me. We, the people, must redeem our land, the vine, the plant, the rivers, all the stretch of the great green state, and make America again. Hold fast to the dream, for when the dream goes, life is a barren field, frozen with snow. I fully agree with Langston Hughes. This land belongs to us. And dedicating our day today to Martin Luther King and to others like Malcolm X, let us pledge to carry on the dream, because that's the only way to honor those great people, those great leaders of our nation. Thank you.
Provide to you because you are a man who has everything. but it is a book, When We're Ready or Not. And I think you and he made a trip to Washington to hear this man recently, and we just want to give this to you as our appreciation for participating today.
Thanks to all of you. And what Ms. Brooker referred to, the trip to Washington, that took place only a few days ago. I attended it. Paul Lupke, our state representative, attended it. We met with 600 other people from all over the United States. And the purpose of that meeting is to form a coalition, a unity of all progressive forces to carry forward the dream of Martin Luther King. Thank you again.